Sit closer, children. You've heard of men who sold their souls, but this one traded his mother's mind for wealth. This is the story of how Chijioke Nwosu bought his mother's madness and passed it on to his lineage. Rain drummed against the rusted zinc roof like impatient fingers. Lightning split the night in half, revealing the silhouette of Chijioke, crouched in the middle of his small, dimly lit room. The air smelled of candle wax and desperation. Books lay scattered around him, economics textbooks, notes from endless lectures, all useless against the hunger, clawing at his belly and the shame burning in his chest. He whispered, "God, if you can't help me, then who will?" The candle flickered. Outside, the wind howled as though something ancient had heard him. Chijioke was 23, a final-year university student from Nsuka. Brilliant but broke. His mother, Mama Ifeoma, sold roasted corn by the roadside, her laughter bright even when her stomach wasn't full. She often told him, "My son, contentment is better than gold. A peaceful mind is worth more than wealth." But peace didn't pay tuition, and tonight, peace was the last thing on his mind. Earlier that day, Chijioke had been mocked by classmates. After being thrown out of an exam hall for unpaid school fees, their laughter echoed in his head like a curse. That was when Obina, his roommate, the kind of guy who always had new shoes and strange friends, had leaned close and whispered, "If you really want to change your story, meet someone tonight, behind the old chapel. Don't ask questions, just go." Now, as thunder rolled, Chijioke found himself standing before that chapel. The air was heavy, thick with mist and the smell of earth after rain. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall, wrapped in a black cloth that seemed to move even without wind. "You seek wealth," the figure said, voice like dry leaves scraping against stone. "But every gift demands a price." Chijioke hesitated. "What kind of price?" The figure smiled. Or maybe it was a shadow twisting its shape. "Blood, but not your own." Chijioke's chest tightened. "Whose then?" "Someone bound to you by love. Someone whose sanity will be your bridge to fortune." He should have run. He should have screamed. But the words fortune and wealth wrapped around him like a spell. His mind painted pictures of cars, fine suits, marble houses. Mama Ifeoma no longer selling corn under the sun. "What must I do?" he whispered. The figure handed him a small black stone carved with strange symbols. "Hold this when the cock crows. Speak your desire. By dawn your world will change." When he woke up the next morning, the stone was gone. And so was his mother's mind. Mama Ifeoma was found wandering the streets, singing to the wind and laughing at invisible people. Her roasted corn scattered into the dust. Her eyes, once soft and kind, now stared at nothing. Wealth came, swift, blinding, unstoppable. But every time he closed his eyes, he heard his mother's laughter echoing in the dark. A laughter that wasn't joy, but torment. And in that laughter, the whisper returned. Every gift demands a price. 5 years later, Lagos glittered beneath the evening sun, and Chijioke Nwosu was a name everyone knew. His company, Crown Line Holdings, was worth billions. His mansion overlooked the Atlantic. Cameras loved his smile. Magazines called him the boy who beat poverty. But behind the smile, his nights belonged to shadows. He often woke drenched in sweat, hearing his mother's voice whispering through the walls. Sometimes laughing, sometimes weeping. Every therapist said it was guilt, but he knew better. The whispers had a life of their own. At his side was Amara, his wife, graceful, fierce, and everything he thought money could buy. But she was not fooled by luxury. She often caught him staring blankly into the distance and asked, "Who were you talking to in your sleep, Chijioke?" He'd smile. "Just dreams." But dreams don't smell of smoke and roasted corn. They don't sound like your mother singing madness to the moon. One night, while driving home from a charity gala, Chijioke saw a figure on the roadside, a woman barefoot, drenched by rain, humming a tune that made his blood freeze. His mother's song. He slammed the brakes, heart hammering. When he looked again, the road was empty. He drove home trembling, his reflection in the rearview mirror smiling back at him even though he wasn't. That week, Amara found out she was pregnant. For a moment, joy washed over him. He imagined a son, someone to inherit the empire he'd built. But that night, the whisper came again, louder than ever. Blood flows forward, not backward. The dead is never gone. The next morning, he found the black stone again, the same one he thought had vanished years ago, lying on his bedside table. His world began to tilt. Deals collapsed. His trusted partner betrayed him. Dreams twisted into nightmares. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the whisper of wind, began to carry a voice. Amara noticed his eyes changing, the same distant, broken stare she once saw in his mother's photo. One evening, as the moonlight bathed their balcony, Amara touched his arm. "You need to tell me what's happening," she pleaded. "Something is haunting you." Tears filled his eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, to confess everything, when a child's laughter echoed faintly from inside the house. They had no children, not yet. Amara froze. "Did you hear that?" Chijioke's heart stopped. Somewhere in the dark, the unseen voice of a child whispered, "Papa, it's my turn now." And the black stone cracked open like an egg, bleeding smoke. The moon hung low over Lagos, swollen and red like an omen. Inside Chijioke's mansion, the lights flickered as if the house itself could sense something coming. Amara lay awake, her hands resting on her growing belly. The baby was barely 3 months old, yet she already felt movement, sharp, unnatural jolts, like the child was trying to claw its way out. Each night, whispers circled her bed, faint at first, then louder, clearer. Blood flows forward. The price must be paid. At first, she thought it was her imagination. But when she told Chijioke, his face turned pale. "Don't say that again," he warned, voice trembling. "But I'm hearing things," she said. "And the baby." He slammed his hand on the table. "I said don't!" His sudden rage frightened her. She saw it, that flicker of madness behind his eyes, the same distant emptiness she had once noticed in an old photograph of his mother. That night, Chijioke sat alone in his study, drinking from a bottle he barely remembered opening. Papers littered the desk, business contracts, legal notices, bank alerts showing his empire crumbling. Partners had pulled out. Investors had vanished. Everything he'd built was turning to dust. He buried his face in his hands. "Why now?" he whispered. "I paid the price already." The air grew cold. The candles dimmed. Then she appeared, Mama Ifeoma, not as he remembered her, but as a shadow stitched together by moonlight and madness. Her eyes gleamed with sorrow, her lips twisted in a smile both tender and terrible. "My son," she said softly, her voice echoing through the walls. "Did you think madness ends with one soul? You opened a door that no blood can close." Chijioke fell to his knees. "Mama, please. I didn't know. I just wanted to help you, to lift us from poverty." She touched his face, her hands cold as river stones. "You helped no one. You traded love for illusion. Now your child carries the seed you planted." He screamed, but no sound came out. His throat was frozen, his tears turning to heat on his skin. When Amara entered, she found him staring into empty air, whispering to someone who wasn't there. His eyes glowed faintly in the candlelight. The next day, a doctor confirmed something strange. The baby's heartbeat was erratic. Too fast, almost unnatural. "It's as if the child is echoing another rhythm," the doctor said cautiously. Amara clutched her belly, feeling a tremor inside. Not from fear, but from something that wanted to be born too soon. That night she dreamed of a dark river. Across it stood Mama Ifeoma, holding a crying child, with eyes like Chijioke's. "Save him," the old woman said. "Break the circle." Amara woke screaming. When Chijioke rushed in, she grabbed his arm. "What did you do, Chijioke? What curse did you bring into this house?" His mouth opened, but before he could answer, every light in the house went out. From the darkness came a sound, a baby crying, faint and distant, as though from beneath the floor. Amara's hands flew to her stomach. The cry answered her heartbeat. And in that moment, both husband and wife knew the curse was not waiting to be born. It was already here. Weeks turned into a blur of fear and sleepless nights. Chijioke barely ate. His once perfect suits hung loose on his shoulders. He stopped going to the office, avoiding calls, avoiding mirrors. Every reflection seemed to move a split second too late, smiling when he didn't. Amara tried to hold the house together, but the mansion had changed. Lights flickered without power. Doors whispered shut on their own. At night, the walls pulsed faintly, as though breathing. One evening, she found Chijioke in the nursery, a room not yet finished, sitting in the dark, staring at an empty crib. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly. He didn't turn around. "Listening." "To what?" He pointed at the crib. "He talks to me." Amara's throat tightened. "Chijioke, there's no one there." He laughed, a sound that chilled her blood. "You don't hear it?" "He says he's waiting. He says it's my turn." Amara stepped back. "We need help, real help. A pastor, a healer, something." But Chijioke shook his head violently. No prayers. You think I didn't try? You can't pray away what's already in the blood." The next morning, Amara went to Papa Namdi, the old seer who lived by the lagoon, a man her mother once called the keeper of forgotten truths. His hut smelled of palm oil and ancient herbs. When he saw her, his face darkened. "You carry a heavy shadow, my daughter. The spirit around your womb is not your child's alone." Tears streamed down her face. "Then what must I do?" He gave her a small calabash filled with white chalk and cowries. "Draw a circle around your bed at night. Do not step outside it until dawn. The spirit will come. When it does, you must not answer its voice, no matter whose it sounds like." That night she did as told. The circle glowed faintly under candlelight. Chijioke lay beside her, trembling. Sometime after midnight, the air shifted. A cold wind swept through the room, though every window was closed. The candle bent, then went out. From the shadows, Mama Ifeoma's voice whispered, "Chijioke, my son, help me." He sat up, shaking. "Mama?" Amara grabbed his arm. "Don't answer!" But he was already standing, eyes glassy, walking toward the voice. The wind howled louder. The walls shook. The chalk circle cracked as if something pressed against it from below. Amara screamed as black smoke erupted from the floorboards, forming into the shape of the woman she'd seen in her dreams. Mama Ifeoma, her eyes weeping red tears. "Too late," the spirit hissed. "The blood has chosen." Chijioke fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Take me, not them, please." The spirit smiled sadly. "You cannot give what is already mine." Amara ran forward, breaking the circle, pulling Chijioke back. But the room exploded with light and sound. A storm of whispers, laughter and cries. When it was over, the house was silent again. Amara was still standing. But Chijioke lay on the floor, eyes wide open, whispering to himself in a language she didn't recognize. From the corner of the room, the baby's heartbeat monitor beeped steadily, though the child was still months away from birth, and deep inside Amara's womb something stirred and laughed. The mansion that once glowed with wealth was now a hollow shell. Curtains hung like tired ghosts. Dust covered the marble floors, and silence ruled where laughter once lived. The world outside still called Chijioke a billionaire, but inside these walls he was a prisoner of whispers. Amara had left weeks ago. The doctors said her pregnancy needed a calmer environment, but she didn't. Tell them about the voices that followed her through the night, the whispers that sounded like both husband and mother-in-law, the lullabies that turned to screams before dawn. She found refuge in her sister's village, far from the city's noise. Yet peace never came. Every mirror, every still pool of water, reflected a shadow standing behind her. Tall, familiar, waiting. Meanwhile, Chijioke roamed his house like a ghost that refused to rest. His mind was splintering, memories bleeding into nightmares. Sometimes he saw his younger self, the hungry student, the desperate boy, watching him from corners. Sometimes he saw Mama Ifeoma sitting by the window, roasting corn on an invisible fire, smiling gently. "Son," her spirit would whisper, "it is not too late to return what you took." But how do you return a soul you traded for gold? He tried everything, burning incense, fasting, even sleeping in the old chapel where the pact began. But no matter what he did, the black stone always reappeared by dawn, resting quietly beside his bed, pulsing like a heart. One stormy night, he dreamed again, of the dark figure from years ago, cloaked in shadows. "You have grown rich, Chijioke," it said. "But tell me, are you satisfied?" "I've lost everything," Chijioke muttered. The figure chuckled, voice echoing like thunder. "No, my child. You have paid everything. There's a difference." "I want it back," Chijioke cried. "My mother's mind, my peace, my life. Take the money, take it all." The figure's grin widened. "You misunderstand. Wealth isn't what you gained, and peace isn't what you lost. What you bought was time, a few fleeting years before the blood collects its due." "Then take me," Chijioke screamed. "End it." But the shadow leaned close, whispering, "The curse does not end with you. The child carries your choice." He woke up drenched in sweat. The black stone sat on his chest, warm, glowing red. That morning his phone rang. It was Amara's sister, voice trembling. "Chijioke, she's in labor. Too early. The doctors say the baby—" The line went dead. He didn't think, just drove. Through the rain, through traffic, like a man chasing his last chance at redemption. When he reached the hospital, Amara was in a ward surrounded by terrified nurses. The power had gone out. The emergency lights flickered. She was screaming, clutching her belly, her eyes wild. He ran to her side. "I'm here, Amara, hold on." She looked up at him, and for a heartbeat her face wasn't hers. "It was Mama Ifeoma's. Finish what you started," the voice said through her lips. Lightning flashed. The windows shattered. Every monitor in the room went dead except the one tracking the baby's heartbeat, a steady rhythm that suddenly began to race. Chijioke fell to his knees beside the bed, sobbing. "Please, not him. Take me instead." A gust of cold wind swept through the room. The black stone rolled out of his pocket and stopped between his knees. It cracked open, releasing a faint wail like a newborn crying underwater. And then silence. When the nurses returned, they found Amara unconscious, but alive. The baby had been delivered, a boy, quiet and still, eyes open, staring straight at Chijioke. He took the child in his arms. The baby's tiny hand reached up, touched his cheek. And Chijioke heard it again, that soft, familiar laughter that had haunted him for years. "Mama," he whispered. The baby smiled. In that moment, Chijioke understood. The curse had not taken his son's life. It had inhabited it. His mother's madness, his own greed, his guilt, all reborn in new flesh. He stumbled backward, clutching his head as visions tore through his mind. Mama Ifeoma walking into the firelight, the dark figure laughing in the chapel, Amara screaming his name. His world spun, colors twisting, walls melting into darkness. When he awoke, the hospital room was empty. He was alone. Outside, dawn painted the sky gold. He stood by the window, looking down at the city he had once conquered. Now he owned nothing. His accounts were frozen, his company gone, his name tarnished. He walked out into the street barefoot, his designer suit in tatters, muttering to himself. Passers-by turned to stare, shaking their heads. "Ah, poor man," one woman said. "Another rich one lost to madness." But if you looked closely, just before he disappeared into the morning crowd, you could see the faint smile on his face, a broken man, finally freed by his own ruin. Some nights in Nsuka, old women still tell his story by firelight, about the boy who traded his mother's mind for gold, and how the curse of greed flows through blood like a river that never runs dry. They say if you listen closely during a storm, you can still hear Chijioke's voice in the wind, laughing, weeping, whispering one eternal truth. Every gift demands a price.